Sorry, good afternoon. I'm sure many of our colleagues are not at work because I'm sure we are more than this. Today is not Friday. People can pray in the office.
It's one. Prayer is one.
Huh?
They're in the mosque.
Oh, we have a mosque here?
Yes.
Okay.
No, we can continue.
No, let these people come so they don't... Afternoon. My comrades and the media, this is a very short meeting. Thank you for the prayers. May God answer our prayers. I'm sure you all know that we are facing crisis, a major epidemic around the world. And Nigeria is I'm sure you know it's no longer secret that we are facing a major epidemic around the world, and Nigeria has its own fair share of coronavirus. It's not as bad as some other countries, but clearly the numbers are increasing. And as they say, prevention is better than cure. We have a conversation among ourselves, NWC members, and we realize that many of you are living in different places. I'm not sure how many of you have private cars, so I imagine that many of you have to come to work using public transport, buses, and you have no control over the number of passengers in those buses. Or you take a taxi, you have no control over the number of passengers the driver wants to take. And nobody knows who is coming from where. So for us as a party, particularly as a governing party, we have responsibility for ensuring that we take preventive measures to, which appear to be the only way going forward to prevention. This is a typical case of prevention is better than cure. We've asked ourselves at this point, is there anything that we will lose as a party if you do not come to work? And if your services are required by your head of department or by any member of the NWC, we can always call you on phone, and I believe you can provide those information on phone. And where your physical attention is required, we also can invite you, not in groups. The person whose attention is required can be invited to attend specifically to those issues, and he goes back home. So we've called basically to announce that we are closing the office for the next 2 weeks, and if the situation does it, if we see that the numbers are not revising, we might probably still extend it. But the important is that we want to be alive, well, to be able to serve our country and to be able to service our members as a party. But because we are governing, we are a party that forms the federal government and controls majority of the states, we have additional responsibility to ensure that government programs and policies and announcements are obeyed by all Nigerians. And we, as APC leaders and members, must be seen to obey those advices and directives that have been given. We want to commend those governors, regardless of their party platform, that have taken cue from federal government decisions by asking workers to stay away from work. I think that those preventive measures are important. But also the closure of airport and borders, we as a party readily endorse those measures. Because it is very clear that even the advanced countries don't have what it takes to provide sufficient medication or sufficient gadgets to protect even health workers. So given our own peculiar situation, what the elephant cannot cope with, we who are struggling to work, I don't think we want to take any risk. It is on these and other considerations that we have decided to close the office and advise you to stay at home as much as possible. I also know, unfortunately, that the reality of the Nigeria condition is that most of the poor people live in crowded neighborhoods, and it is not unusual for 2, 3, 4 people to sleep in a room. because they couldn't afford the luxury of big apartments, etc., etc. However, as you can see, this disease is not a respecter of any class. Whether you are rich or poor, the disease doesn't discriminate. So I mean the virus. So I advise you, try as much as you can. It is not a mark of being unfriendly if you decline to have a handshake. It is not a mark of being antisocial if you stop hugging evil people that you love so much. Even as you are seated here, I'm not comfortable because you are sitting too close to each other. And I don't want you to laugh because as you laugh, you emit more, I don't know, I'm not a scientist. So, but take this thing serious because, you know, I watched somebody on television this morning saying this is not a Nigeria problem. It didn't originate from Nigeria. But because Nigeria is part of the global world and we receive airlines into the country and out of the country, people who have lived in countries that are heavily infected, because they are Nigerians or even non-Nigerians, they have imported it into the country. So our option now is how do we isolate so that we can knock down whatever we can knock down and protect whoever we can protect. And we want to lead by example. So as you go home, it's not a holiday. Make every effort to protect your loved ones. Maintain the social distance as has been announced by the Ministry of Health. We believe those measures are necessary. And you can see, between me and the treasurer, I am isolating myself from him. I'm also isolating myself from the national vice chairman. If that means that they don't like me anymore, when we survive, we will reconcile. But if I hug them and something happened, they won't be able to cry for me, I won't be able to cry for them. So God forbid. So I want you to see how we choose to observe the rules as have been announced by the Ministry of Health. And I know they have made those decisions on the basis of established findings. So let us comply. But be assured your salary will be paid. Right now, the treasurer is already preparing the bill. So before the end of the week, coronavirus will not affect your pay. Right? So whether you're at home, wherever you are working, and I know that it's even costlier not to go to work than to stay at home. I work as a factory worker, so when you're at work, there are things you avoid. When you're at home, the day is longer. So you are not gaining anything by staying at home, particularly those of you who like working. So, I mean, it's just what we have to do to comply with government directives. But remember, if your attention is required and someone has to phone you to come to work, if it is something you cannot answer on the phone, try and make effort to come. But if coming will increase your risk, please decline even to come to work. But again, the treasurer wishes to assure you that this will not affect. The salary will be paid online, so you will not touch any cash, and therefore, because we are already doing cashless, so everything will be fine. But like the young lady who said, I believe that this is the time for us to help ourselves. There are a lot of our people who are not educated. We should help in educating them to listen to radio, to watch television, read newspapers, and observe all the advice that have been given, including the advice that churches should close, or rather, places of worship should close. People can pray. God is everywhere. Let's just for this moment, listen and obey government directive. Thank you very much. Thank you. Can somebody lead us in Muslim prayers?
One way.